before sewing on the head, aligning two pieces here, I'll just stick a needle where it needs to align at and stick it through the other side. And afterward, I will continue with my regular method for alignment. One thing I do on the opposite side, I make sure that the needle comes a little bit farther from the seam than it does on this side. There's a little offset that occurs when I sew. So depending on how your machine sews, you may want to do the same. And depending on how you sew or the method you use and the machine, it all makes a difference. And I'll just continue along and finish up that seam. Now, since this last bit will be covered up when we hand sew it on, we'll just go right off the edge here into the allowance, and that will keep things together for the head there. Now it's time for the gusset. Alright, we've started sewing the gusset. Notice I started from this end where we already had an existing seam. It's easier to start on an end if there's two pieces joined together, then start where those pieces are, continue on. For this head gusset, I just sewed this short little seam here before continuing on to do the long seam as it curls along the edge here. So I thought I would give you that information. Like if you're sewing a leg, you would start from where you have already sewn parts of the body together above, and then sew all the way down onto the end of the hoof. And that way you do not have to be super concerned about alignment issues. Also take note, head gussets. Here's the back of the head, here's the front of the head, and see where it meets. Have the head here. The gusset. So what you'll do is you'll just take a pin and align this with the other seam there. There we go. Just use that pin as an alignment tool, and then continue pinning away. What I would do is I would take a pin and just go across this seam from here to here, just across there with my parallel pins. And then I would also put a pin down here, and then continue on going back and forth from one side to the other until the seam is completely pinned. And then I will do the same with this, and then I will just sew one continuous seam over the seam already here. And that usually works out really well. And there we have it, pinned up and ready to go. You'll just have to maintain this and make sure nothing overlaps as you sew. And it usually works out pretty well. I haven't had any, and here again, when you get to here, just go back a little bit, then go forward, then just sew off to the end there, sew off to the edge, and then do the same, of course, with the other side of the head. Okay, that's it. All right, now that we have the seam sewn and cut, we notice we also trimmed this seam to a part. We left this because it'll be easier to manipulate with the extra there, the excess there, when we sew the other side. But for now, we're going to take this seam along the neck, where the neck will be, and we are going to sew around it, just so we can have a guide when we do our hand sewing. So pretty much the same as if you were sewing a seam, except we just go over what we have. And that's it. Now we have a guide on the outside, as you can see, so we can have an idea where they connect from the neck and to the neck.